This is Don't Feed the Geeks, presented by the Long Island Comic Guys, the masters of the geeky verse.
Nice.
I am TC, joined today by Toy Story.
Hello.
Dungeon Master.
Greetings, adventurers.
And JJ.
Hey.
That's not gonna work.
That's not gonna work. I'm gonna get a tag. I'm gonna get, what do you call it?
Catchphrase.
A catchphrase. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get a catchphrase. It's my goal for next show.
If you say so.
It probably won't happen.
So today, we're going to be going down into the dungeons with
this
the
voice you're
DM. Yeah.
Great voice.
Yes, we are.
Very
But
creepy
before
coming right
that-
next to me.
We're going to do a little geek beat.
All right.
Not too much. A few things here and there we saw.
Yeah.
First thing I'll bring up is not the first thing on there, so I'm going to throw you guys a curveball.
Oh, damn.
So you're not going to know what it is.
Oh, damn.
But I believe it was announced today that there's... did you guys hear about this Amazon Prime Lord of the Rings TV
Yes.
series?
Yes.
Yes. So
I
I
did.
saw that before.
pretty
Yep.
exciting. So they've casted about 15 people for the show. I think they're going to be doing a lot of the filming again in like the New Zealand area.
Yeah, that's what I read.
I do not recognize a single name that has been casted so far. It
Some
seems
I-
like a lot of newcomers, maybe just people I don't recognize.
Some of them I recognize. A lot of them.
Okay.
Some of them are from Game of Thrones,
Okay.
which was pretty interesting to see. And then
Not
there's a few.
surprising.
There's one person from Mandalorian.
Okay.
I can't remember the name off the top, but yeah,
Yeah.
I just read it maybe 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, it seems pretty interesting. I have Amazon Prime, so I'll definitely check it out once it launches. I know the wife's a big fan of that stuff too. So.
Amazon Prime's moving up. I mean, they got some pretty good shows.
Oh yeah, I mean everything I've actually watched on there has been fantastic. I mean, between that, Jack Ryan and what's the superhero one?
Obsessed with Jack Ryan. It's annoying.
The Boys.
The Boys.
The Boys, yeah.
You guys should
Everything's
watch
been really good.
Man in the High Castle is really good.
Yeah, I know.
I
don't wanna get into too much
I
serious
just,
stuff.
I tried to get into that. I couldn't get into that. I tried. I think I got 3.5 episodes in. It's exciting. It's Lord of the Rings. I
Yeah.
mean,
No, I mean it's
I'm hoping, because the movies were phenomenal. Like they
Yeah.
were just unbelievable. And somebody like me, I'm going to go into this like it's going to be like the movies were better, and I'm hoping it is.
and I'm with going with what you just said is like I don't necessarily want to see like this like great huge like
Production
of
Right.
story, but as long as the story and kind of like the action is on par with that, it doesn't have to be like huge action scenes.
I'd love minimal green screen.
It has to be. Especially,
think-
well, if they're filming in New Zealand, I mean,
Yeah, I
all
think-
that
they
stuff,
got a
it's
lot.
all
I think
there
they're
still,
gonna have
apparently. Especially the Hobbit area. It's all there.
Apparently, there's like people who are like craft workers and stuff like that who still like make all that stuff. From
Yeah.
what I've read, so
That's wild.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
also a bunch of trailers were recently released. I'm going to start with the one not on the screen again to throw you guys off. But today, as we were recording, new Black Widow trailer
right, I
dropped.
did
Did
see
I
you
didn't
guys
see that. Nope, didn't see that one.
Yeah, so it's their second trailer. You see a lot of the same stuff. The different stuff is you got a few more better shots of Taskmaster.
Okay.
So you see the shield, you see the face really quickly.
Nice.
Most of the other stuff is pretty much the same. David Harbour, you get to see like a quick scene with him fighting. He seems to have some type of super strength, probably on par with Captain America, because he like grabs some guy's hand and like pretty much throws him across like the room. So it looks pretty cool. I'm actually pretty excited for that.
Nice.
Yeah. So the close up of the mask, it gives me and it's funny that Boss Logic did like this. I don't know if you guys know who Boss Logic is, but he's like a big graphic designer. He did what I was thinking when I saw it was he morphed it into Scorpion.
Yeah.
From Mortal Kombat. I was like, it looks like Mortal Kombat.
It does look like that. They're very wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we'll see.
All right.
It seems pretty good, and I mean, I was already excited for that movie, but the new trailers got me a little bit more
I'm very excited.
So they're actually
cool.
one of the sites I'm just looking at now is comparing him to the Pizza the Hut guy from Spaceballs.
Oh my
That's
god.
awesome.
That's funny.
Do we have a name for that guy?
Nope.
He probably never got a name. Just henchman.
Henchman for Pizza the Hut. That's funny.
All right, now we'll go into the other big one
All right.
that we had is Sony released their Morbius trailer. Did everyone see it?
Yes.
We saw. I
Yes.
saw it. Bruce, did you see it? Or
I
DM?
seen pictures. I did not see the trailer.
Okay.
You need to be up on this because
First impressions?
JJ,
They know.
they know. It's a 9-6. No, just kidding. I liked
you
it.
would say that.
It looks promising. I have a problem with this guy Jay Leto. I'm not a big fan of him.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. I'm not a big fan of him. So
I was like, I didn't know Jay Leno
Jay,
was in
Jay Leto. Jay Leto. Yeah.
I mean, he has a chin for it, I guess.
It's interesting. It's weird to see him going from a Joker to this.
You know what's funny? So, I mean, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it, I would say skip ahead like maybe 30 seconds to a minute at this point. I was actually more excited by seeing Michael Keaton
Yes.
at the end than I would have if I saw Tom Holland. I'm not going to lie. I don't even know why.
I was in shock when I
agree.
saw that. I was like, what's going on? Because I didn't realize that was... As soon as I saw the poster of Spider-Man, it said
Which apparently
murder.
is like a poster of Tobey Maguire from the original Spider-Man.
Is it
or
really?
something
I
like
thought
that,
this,
yeah.
I thought the same thing when I saw it.
That's funny.
I'm curious to know how far this takes place after all that.
It's interesting, honestly. Like I still haven't finished Venom. I think I watched like the first 45 minutes of it, never finished it. So I
Nice.
have to eventually go back and maybe finish that.
Does that play into this whole
I
thing?
haven't watched a second.
I
of
think
it.
it's all going to be linked. So apparently they're doing another one. I think the whole reason that Sony agreed to let Disney finish out their like movies is because they're like, all right, fine, but we're using him at the same time for our Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll see. I mean,
I could see that.
I don't know.
It looks good. I mean, I don't know the his face when it changed. I mean, it was dead on. To me, it was dead on to the comic book.
Yeah,
it looks
I mean, it
dead
looks
on.
good. I mean, I'm not overly excited about it. I'll probably maybe
I'm trying-
watch
I'm
it.
trying-
I'm more
not to
excited for this than I am Venom.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying not to get super excited by trailers anymore.
It's tough.
You know.
I don't. So I've never had that problem. So in relation to this, so it was something that's important to us. I think we were doing this in a separate segment called Up and Away, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We're just going to merge this because it's easier to do this than
Can we
to go
rename
back
that
to
to
it
Infinity and Beyond?
later. Sure.
You guys all right? Damn.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So given that we're seeing a new character on the screen, Morbius, we're going to talk about a little bit of the comic market effect. So
I was reading these before. I was a little surprised.
yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna actually go into that.
I think I know why. Tell me what you think first,
Like I wrote it down. So obviously, for those people who don't know, Amazing Spider-Man number 101 is the first appearance of Morbius. At the 9.4 range, I'm seeing it. So I looked from like the high 9s to like about a 6.0. I didn't really go lower than that. Raw prices I didn't really look at either, but I was just going graded kind of, according to what GPA had. And I wasn't overly surprised by what I saw. So a 9.4, which is the highest one I saw sold as of yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, I think, was $23.50 for a 9.4 graded. And that's up $100 from the 12-month average, which is interesting that it's only up $100. But then when you hear the rest of the story, so 9.0 is going for about $1,020, down about $130. And then 8.5s are down about 60. 8.0's up 80. 7.5 is down about 60. 7.0 down about 20. And 6.5 up about 20. 6.0 down about 20. So my theory is, and I'll let you interject after I'm done, is that people have been hoarding these and now have flooded the market with it. So there's just so many available that I think it's actually knocking down the prices, from what they were 12 months ago. Or
Exactly
whatever
what I
it
was going to say.
Yeah.
There's so many up now, and people just want to get rid of them because this is the hype time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they'll take $60 less than market.
Right.
They'll take $80 less.
Yeah, because you're still going to make money on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I do the
people
same
who have
thing.
been holding on to these for a while.
So, will this go up once we get closer to the movie?
I think if the movie's a hit, you might see a bump. So the bigger risk is if it's a huge flop. Like Amazing Spider-Man 300 took a decent hit after Venom came out because it was kind of not really received as a great movie.
Okay.
And again, I can't really speak to that because I haven't finished it.
Right.
But I think the person who gave kind of the best description to me is actually Jeff. He said it was a really awesome 90s superhero movie. But that was just made in the current day.
Right.
I was like, okay, all right.
Okay.
So yeah, interesting.
It'd be interesting to see
tidbit.
this chart of these numbers over the
Yeah.
next couple months until the movie comes out and see where it fluctuates and everything else.
100%. I am going to be interested, especially since I have one coming back from CGC, hopefully in the next few months.
I haven't. My copy's nice, but it has one giant gash on the bottom through the cover. It
I
sucks.
mean, so the expert that I gave my book to for review, Mr. Mike, we won't say his last name because I don't know.
I actually don't know.
He said he thinks it was in the 9 to 9.2 range.
Dude, that's awesome.
And he's usually pretty hard on the books, so
All right.
I
Nice.
guess we'll see what happens.
Hopefully the best.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not selling it. It's part of my collection, my Spider-Man collection. So this was pretty interesting. I saw this news. I figured we'd talk about it real quick. Diamond Distributors. Distributors?
Distributors.
I just said that really quick.
Diamond
Yeah. They released their top 100 comics ordered from the past decade. So I think it was 2010 to 2019 it included.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah. So out of those 100, 68 were from Marvel,
No surprise.
24 were DC,
Okay.
5 Image, 2 Boom Studios, and 1 from IDW. Star Wars. So there was a couple. Star Wars is in the top 5 here, and I'll go into where it is. But that and a lot of other books were including a lot of Loot Crate packages, which according to the the article I read said it can inflate the number from 300
Yeah, because
to 500,000.
people aren't technically buying the book; they're
Yeah.
getting it with whatever.
Right. So the notable top 5s were Star Wars #1, which I was actually surprised by. It was
Oh, a ton of people
yeah,
bought that.
there was that was the #1 ordered book, followed by Detective 1000, Amazing Spider-Man 1, the Volume 3, the 2014 one. So I think considered first appearance of Silk. I probably contribute to that heavily because I think I have 100 different variations of that.
That was
with all the variants.
That was after Superior ended, right?
right after Superior
Yeah.
ended, yeah. Secret Wars 1, which I'm super surprised about, at #4. And then Action Comics 1000.
I'm
These
very.
are the top 5.
These are the top 5.
This is
out of
ordered?
that. Ordered, yeah.
I'm very surprised Action is lower than Detective.
You know what it is? There's more Batman fans out there. Than,
Yeah, but Action was the first 1,000 book.
yeah, and
You're right though about Batman.
And even like I remember Bojo said that the variants, and you got to remember, a lot of these numbers are driven by the heavy amount of variants that were there.
Oh,
I mean, Star Wars
insane amount.
#1, the amount of variants I have is ridiculous.
So many.
I mean, this, the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I probably have 150 copies of that, including variant. I have almost an entire box just of Amazing
also, when
Spider-Man
they
1.
do things like 1 in 1,000 variants, that forces certain stores to order. They'll order 1,000 copies even if they're not going to sell
Yeah,
them.
I mean, who knows? Midtown probably ordered 5,000 alone per store.
Yeah.
But
I think these numbers would be skewed because of the whole variance. Like, if you took the variance out of the picture, like just the main cover, what would these numbers
Well, the thing
look
is, the
like?
stores still pay for the variants, but they're only allowed to buy them once they hit a certain number
Right.
of regular orders.
Right.
So, like, even for 1 in 1,000, if it's a $3.99 book, it still costs that 1 in 1,000 variant will still cost the store the same as the regular cover once they hit 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, if I don't know what it is, but if the wholesale price is like $2.30, it costs them that too. Which is kind of crazy.
Interesting. At least the top 5. I would never have pegged Star Wars even being #1.
So, if you're interested in knowing what some of the other ones were, the Image ones were 3 of them were Walking Dead, 2 were Spawn.
Oh wow.
Boom Studios, I think one of them was actually the Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, I have that one.
Yeah, and I think that's another one that was included in like one of the Loot Crate things. IDW was something I didn't even hear of before. It was actually pretty high. I think it might have been 10.
Do you remember what the other Boom one was?
Yeah, I kept it up just to in curiosity. Oh God, I hate this. There's
We're not going to say what site it is.
Very interesting. I'm curious to know, like, with the rest of these. This might be something nice to tweet to
Oh,
put
so
out.
I'm sorry. The IDW was Orphan Black.
Oh,
Oh,
I might
wow.
have that.
I don't have that
Ooh,
one.
Dark Knight 3's up there.
Boom, and the other Boom Studios was Bravest Warrior Tales Holo John.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Literally
Never
no idea.
heard of that one.
I missed that one. Oh, actually, no. It wasn't regular Big Trouble in Little China. It was Big Trouble Little China / Escape from New York #1.
Oh.
Was
I
one of
don't
them
know.
was one of the Walking Dead ones number 100?
I believe so. Yes,
That
it
had
was,
like 30,000 variants.
There's a
when that
ton of
came out.
variants on
It
that
was
one.
100, 115, and 132. And then Spawn was 300 and 301.
Of course.
115 was, I remember they had 10 covers.
Was that the one with
The
the girl?
100 was...
And they were all connecting, so you
Yeah.
connect them in a big rectangle.
Yep.
Interesting. But I thought it was pretty cool.
Okay. Interesting.
Dark Knight Master 3 was 8. Amazing Spider-Man 800 was 9. Vader down topped out the 10.
Nice.
Star
Okay.
Wars '1.
Wow.
Wow.
That's actually pretty... That's
Yeah.
actually a pretty cool article.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. So that's pretty much all I got.
We'll post a link for it in our show notes.
Yeah.
How about that?
If anybody has anything
Yeah, we
interesting.
should... We should
shall.
talk about
We
that
should.
more. Yeah.
F yeah, this is America.
America. America.
But we appreciate all other countries if you're
So-
listening from somewhere else.
You know, I'm going to back it up one bit about the trailers. I mean, did you catch the new Harley trailer?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Birds of Prey?
Yeah.
I'm still going to go see it.
I'm still going to see it. It looks kind of...
Why is it no good?
Nothing about it is getting me excited.
Not one. Not at all.
It
That's
just
sad.
It looks like all their filming is done in like an empty warehouse. Like everything I've seen so far.
You know, so I know, like, there's a scene, and it's a great scene. It's Batman. I'm not sure which Batman it is. It's the one with the Riddler in it, with Jim Carrey.
Batman Forever.
Batman Forever. And I love that. I like that movie. It was pretty cool. But the scene where he's on his throne and, you know, he's in his own little dark world, that's what this movie looks like. It's in a... You can tell it's in a sound studio. It's not out in the
you're
world.
basically saying the same thing Jeff said about Venom. It looks like a really good 90s superhero movie.
There you go.
Made in 2020.
Yeah, but I don't think this one's very good. It's going to be a tough sell, I think.
Yeah. I don't think it was... I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I'm a little curious. But yeah, that trailer dropped.
It might just not be for us.
It might not.
Hey, how's your Attack of the Clones rewatch going?
I've stopped it 3 times.
What, are you still up to the same part from the other day?
Yeah, I haven't continued. I haven't had the urge
you're almost there.
to want to watch anymore.
Is there anything you like?
We should talk about this after our main segment, right?
I don't think so.
We don't have to go into detail. I'm just curious.
Because I'm watching the Clone Wars
Me too.
all over again.
I'm in season 2.
Oh, are you
I'm,
really?
I'm in season 1.
You know what? Let's do that at the end. We'll
All
do
right.
watching it.
All
So,
right.
so let's get into it.
Definitely.
All right, so we're gonna turn this over to the Dungeon Master.
So this is a pretty cool. Let's.
I'm actually really
I'm very
excited. Like
excited.
when we decided to do this, I was just like, this is gonna be cool because we're gonna be talking all about D&D. For those of you out there,
Which
who
is
are
called
interested in playing.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and
If you
Dragons,
don't
yeah.
know the acronym,
I mean, it's funny because my brother the other day, he's like, "So what's Dungeons and Dragons about?" I was like, "Why are you asking?"
He wants to play.
I might want to play. I was like, all right, cool. I'll
Really?
send a text to the group. So I told you,
Yeah.
I sent that text about him wanting to be some type of Legolas type elf.
We have
all right.
places.
So
That's
our
funny.
DM, who he's gonna head this one up. So take it away.
Thanks, JJ. Yeah, so
Really happy.
yeah,
to
we're
be here.
talking Dungeons and Dragons tonight. So I know Toy Story and
TC.
TC are fairly new to Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, we have been playing for about a year now, but before that, I don't think you guys played at all.
I hadn't played once, no.
No.
You
I don't
knew
even know.
something.
No,
of
that's
it.
a lie. I
Have we
played-
played like at 10 times at least? I don't even think we've played that many times, have we?
Well, when everybody's
I think we played about 10 times.
Yeah.
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 It's close to that number.
we've tried to get
Yeah.
together at least once a month. Every
We should
have
do
to-
that for
we have
this
to
year.
do it more often.
We should try that for this year, once
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah.
All right.
We should try and get something more consistency, but you guys have, a lot of family obligations and stuff.
So
Not me.
explain to our listeners what is Dungeons and Dragons.
All right.
Great
so,
question, JJ.
I'm moving this along.
Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game. Not exclusively tabletop anymore because, this is the 21st century. So, you can now play online. You can even play a tabletop version online through the internet.
But originally, so when it first came out,
What were its origins?
Originally, it all started back in 1974. Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson.
there you go.
There you go.
Gygax, good name.
I love that.
Back in 1974, it was like they came out with this game called Dungeons and Dragons. Now, ironically, this wasn't the whole start. It actually started a few years before. Gary Gygax had already made a miniature war game called Chainmail, which I found kind of interesting because I really didn't know about it until I started researching a little bit, in his past life. So it was back in 71. Gygax with Jeff Perrin came up with this game called Chainmail, which was basically a tabletop version of like medieval combat, but with armies, not with individuals. So
almost like Risk to a certain degree, but more probably involved, right?
It's they had a what did they had? They had a battle master system, so you would think.
Take a deep breath. This is relaxing.
Just relax.
It's
all
Get
good.
through it.
So I'm gonna let me just back up. So when you say tabletop, when we say tabletop, it's basically pen and paper. It's not a board game. It's not a game you take out of a box. It's getting a piece of loose leaf paper, getting a pencil, and getting a couple dice, and that's basically what you're playing.
So when you guys first played, did you even have like a figure or a map that you explored?
So, can I take this?
Yeah. Go
Okay.
right.
So when I first started playing back in the early '80s,
Back in high school.
And even before that,
how old are you, Toy Story?
yeah, I don't think it was around. There are no maps. You basically create the maps on a piece of paper. We would use grid paper. You know those grid little paper,
Like graphic paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was up. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were no miniatures. It was
miniatures.
there was none
wasn't
of
even
that.
a concept.
It was basically, put a little X as that was you, or a little O that was you. If it was an X, you were dead.
If you
or
moved, you erased it.
You erased and you moved up a little more.
That's hilarious.
So did you need like a paper and some sort of map to play, or
No,
could you could just play by
You played
speaking or whatever?
It was all speaking. It was all imagination, all that good stuff. So when
we'll explain what imagination is, Toy Story later.
So when we played
That's not
in
an
high
age thing. What do you mean?
when we played in high school, you could do this two ways. TSR, who was Tactical Studies Rules, who came out with who released published it. They would create modules that you can buy. So these modules were all different.
And by module, you
it's
mean
a story.
It was a book, right?
It's a little book.
Yeah, it was
like
a little
pamphlet.
book.
It could
about
be
30 pages.
Yeah. Okay.
Or smaller. There was some that was just maybe 2 pages long, and in there it was very brief guidelines of what the campaign or the mission was. I mean, it was basically kind of little notes.
Okay.
Your DM, which is the dungeon master. So the way that this was played, you have your DM, which is your dungeon master. He basically controls the entire world. He is the one that comes up with everything, who throws everything at you. And then you got your players. It could be anywhere from, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can have a ton. When I played in the Navy, there must have been 10, 15 guys we would play. So the dungeon master would basically come up with, how he would base everything off of these modules, and he would add, take away,
They can do whatever they want.
whatever he
essentially.
wants.
Yeah.
there's no rules to this except
So, sorry, go ahead.
there's no rules except the core rules of
Right.
how things are, how your character acts and reacts to different things, but the actual gameplay, it's a free for all.
Yeah.
So when you DM us, is it like similar? It's like a free for all like that too.
Yes. The current module that you guys are currently playing, it's all written out the encounter, the treasure, and
So-
everything in there.
So does that account for like most possibilities of what could happen?
Yes,
Okay.
I can add stuff to it, and I have changed little things because with the new rules now, a lot of these modules are for older editions. So some of the rules and some of the instructions on what you should be doing is a little bit. What's the word I want to use? A
Expired?
little, a little bit
Out of date.
outdated.
Yeah.
For instance, it's like they have certain
And the one we're
monsters
playing
in
right
it.
now is called Caves of Chaos.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the module is actually called "Keep on the Borderland," which, you're exploring the Caves of Chaos. But they have it all laid out. How much health that the monsters have and stuff like that. And some of them, if you look at it, they only have like 2 health on it. But that was back like in the 70s or 80s when it first came out, so it was a different rule set.
Right.
So if you look at it now with the new current rule set, the same monsters, they may have a health of 10 and stuff like that. So basically, as the dungeon master, you're taking the story that they give you, and you're gonna be
Adjusting
modifying it to
Current rules
fit
and current standards.
the current situation.
So you can play old modules, but you just have to adjust it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it really all depends too on the size of the group that you have.
Party.
Yeah, we have what do we have? We have 5, right? Yeah, we have the 5 of you who are playing, and 2 of you are playing two
Dual
characters. So there's a total of 7 people in the party. Now that's a little bit on the larger side.
Yeah.
Usually it's between 4 to 6,
Okay.
which is really manageable. I mean, you can have as many as 12,
Right.
but it just kind of gets a little chaotic,
Chaotic.
because there's a lot of people, and a lot of people want to do certain things, and
Everybody's
so,
yelling out stuff. Oh, do this, do that.
yeah, and for one person, the dungeon master, to control everything, so it's not just like all yelling and
Right.
screaming and
They
stuff
could get
like
a
that.
little.
I like.
Yeah.
I like having 2.
I
Well, when your
don't.
brother, if your brother plays, you might have to revert to 1.
I'm
Well,
not.
he'll revert to
I'm
1.
not. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of playing 2 characters. I like to focus on one because I've always played the same type of character.
Yeah.
So, what
Yeah.
type of characters can you play in Dungeons and Dragons?
You can nowadays you can pretty much have anything you want. They used to be just the core ones. It used to be fighter, thief, wizard, cleric. In the early editions, there were very little subclasses to it. The thief, you could either go one of maybe 2 ways. You can go through like a burglar, or you can go through an assassin.
Right.
For the cleric, there was really only one way to go. He was the healer of the party. Wizard was, the spellcaster, and the fighter was pretty much the fighter. With the fighter, you had a couple of choices. You could be a paladin, a noble knight, or just a soldier, in the army that decided to go. Yeah, well, barbarian actually came later.
Oh, so it's like
Yeah.
a subset.
So with the development, they came into when they came into the second edition, they kind of branched it out a little bit. Let me see. They branched it out. It was it first came out when it was first released. It was just called Dungeons and Dragons.
So
And was it one module?
No, there were 3 books. There was a
books.
player's handbook, and at that time, I'm trying to get my hands on them, but they're really expensive. Very thin book. I think it's. I read it somewhere once before. I think it was only like 20 pages.
Wow.
The,
And
the
that
book.
was the red box, right? Was that the box
No,
one?
this is. I'm talking about the very first,
the first
one. The
one.
one in the white box.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just a plain white box. Had 3 books. It had player's handbook. It had a dungeon master's guide, and it had a supplemental. Now the supplemental is a monster manual, which they have for all the other ones. But back then it was just those 2 just to get you started. as the popularity started gaining, you know, they did revisions and they did updates and
And
they
it was
had
banned for devil worship.
yeah, there was
Was it really? I'm
there-
surprised.
there
I
was-
remember seeing that on the news where it was all over the news about, you know, D&D was
Controversial.
this big devil worshipping and keep your kids away from this.
Yep.
And there was a huge campaign on this. It was crazy.
There's a great movie. I haven't seen it yet. I've seen bits and pieces of it. Tom Hanks,
Okay.
Mazes and Monsters,
Oh, I remember that.
Okay.
based off of Dungeons and Dragons. He basically goes a little nuts, takes the game a little too seriously, and he starts killing his friends
Nice.
because he thinks that they're monsters.
Oh, I have to check that one out.
Yeah. I
When did this come out? Like the 80s?
yeah, I think it's 82.
Hold on, I'll tell you in a second. It's 82.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Mazes and Monsters.
Mazes and Monsters.
That's funny.
It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I seen bits and pieces of it. I so want to
The-
watch
it's a
it.
college student, Tom Hanks, begins to live the role he plays with three friends in a medieval fantasy game.
It's got a 4.1 on IMDb.
That's funny.
I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So yeah, it got a bad rap. You know, I guess back then in the 70s, early 80s, you know, it was devil worshipping and all that other stuff. But I don't know. It's like Jim and I turned out pretty all right. But
Define all right, guys.
but
Maybe we should stop playing.
But despite all that, the game was hugely successful early on. It got a really big following. Back in '77, they decided that they were going to make two versions of the game. They came out with the regular Dungeons and Dragons, which was basically, you could call it D&D light. It had abbreviated rules, you know, so people can like really jump in really quick on it. You know, it's like you didn't need to, you know, follow all
For
like,
new
the-
players, essentially.
Yeah, it didn't have all like weight restrictions and stuff like
Movements
that.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, food requirement, water requirement, rest requirement, and stuff like that. And then they also came out with
So it's like easy
advanced.
mode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then they came out with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which was heavy on the rules and it had a lot of structure to the game, which a lot of people kind of liked because they wanted more information, you know, on the races and the classes that you had, and it's like
So they wanted to know more about like what character they were using.
yes, exactly. So and then they came out with all these books, especially in the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. They introduced the 3 core rule books, which they keep now, which is the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and a Monster Manual. But back then, there was even more. When they first came out with that, the Player's Handbook, there was actually 3 volumes to the Player's Handbook.
Wow.
Now, if you look at the books that they have now, it's like they're pretty big books. If you can
Yeah, they
imagine
look like
having
textbooks now.
yeah,
3 of those.
if you need like 3 of them to have all the rules for the Player's Handbooks, it's like that's a huge investment.
I don't think we played a lot of
Also a time
AD&D.
investment.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. Not at all. In fact, it's like I kind of stayed away from that because the rules kind of got like really, really technical. I mean, to
Just the point where it
fact
wasn't
that
fun.
It almost became like a job
Gotcha.
to be the dungeon master. I mean, it's a cool job to be a dungeon master because you get to,
Yeah.
you get to play any character in the entire world that you're building, which is kind of
It's
cool.
like running the
'cause-
social media for a
Yeah, it's like-
for a podcast group.
yeah.
I remember when we played in high school, you know, during our lunch period and all our free time that we had. Like we even got to like me. I think I was playing a ranger, and like we even created a weapon.
Yeah, I got a little crazy. There wasn't really much of a rule set for Dungeon Master created weapons. So it was around that time the
cartoon was out.
The cartoon was out. So I took a note from the cartoon with the ranger. I was like, I wanted to make a light bow.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, it's like, how can I make a light bow and not have it like a level 1 character is like this, like, God amongst men with this light bulb here. So
I became one.
yeah, you inadvertently you did. So I kind of figured it was like taking cues from the cartoon. I was like, okay, it's like he'll have a bow, but you know, then he'll have to find like various enchantment scrolls where he can put like different powers into it. And it's like, you know, if he wanted a rope, you know, he would have to like either purchase a scroll or whatever and have it enchanted, where he would just have to speak to it, you know, and when the arrow he shoot, it shot out a golden rope where he can climb a wall and stuff like that.
It's pretty cool. My favorite was the scroll where I can shoot as many arrows as my level. So one arrow would turn into 8 because if I was a level 8, so it would do like, you know, instead of being one shot, it was 8 shots.
Yeah.
And that became the demigod weapon of that annihilating everything.
When you took what was it? I think it was towards the end of the year, so I wanted a climactic finish, so I put the group up against a red dragon. So Jim here, he had his light bow or whatever. I think it was 2 or 3 rounds, and the dragon was dead. And I just realized, I was like, yeah, it's like that was not a very good idea with that bow. So
and to this day, I still have that original character sheet.
Do you really?
The orange one with my pencil marks on it with that light bow. I still have the original one that's in my office right now. I'll never
That's
give that. I
crazy.
still have that from that time.
that's crazy.
So you can still use that character? Or?
No.
You know, I think there is a light bow now in the inventory in the books.
Yeah,
There's
the
a
new edition, it actually gives you instructions on DM creating weapons and armor and stuff like that. So it's come a long way.
That's
It's
what I
come a
love
long
about
way.
this. So because you can create, basically, the DM can create really anything, or the user, the player can create anything in this as long as it doesn't even need to make sense actually.
No, it doesn't. Because
and that's what I like
basically
about this.
It's a fantasy world, and basically whatever you make, you know, it's part of your world, and that's one of the great creative juices which I think the game has, you know, withstood for so long, because you can pretty much create anything, and even if it doesn't make sense, or
If it makes sense to you, it's fine.
yeah, if it's fun, you know, go for it, you know.
So I'm going to take a step back here. So we were talking about, you know, what's involved in this game. So, you know, it's basically a pen and pencil game.
Yes.
You do have dice. So the
This
dice
isn't just a 6-sided dice that most people play
Right.
board
This is
games
not.
with,
You're
right?
not getting these dice.
These are
That-
these crazy dice that you see in the movies that are like
Crazy.
multi-sided.
So some of the dice that you got a 20-sided dice. You've got a 10-sided dice. You've got a 12-sided dice.
There's a pyramid
an
one.
8-sided
Yeah,
dice.
6.
That's a 4-sided dice. There's a 6-sided dice. Some of these dice, even though, you know, there's a 10-sided dice, there's even dice that have. I've even seen 100-sided dice.
Yes. Percentile dice.
Yep. And then they've got, you know, the percentile dice where, you know, it's a
that up.
10-sided dice, but it'll have a little 0 next to it, so it, you know, you can use it that. So there's several different types of dice that you use in this game.
Yeah. So you play with at least, 6 or 7 dice when you're playing a character now?
7, right?
Yeah, but it could be 8 because, you know, it all depends. Like me being a thief, because I have dual daggers, you know, I'll roll two 1d4 dice, and that gives me my damage. So it all depends. But
So you
yes,
just said 1d4. What does that mean?
it's
Explain to everybody.
a 1d4 is
One
a
roll
one
of a
roll of a
four-sided.
4 dice. You know, a short sword is a 1d6. So you're going to roll one roll of a 6-sided dice.
So I think what's interesting is, so before we go into like more of the history, so when you guys get to play, when you encounter, you know, a villain or some other character, you know, you have to do what's that roll called?
An initiative.
Well, it's before the initiative, which is basically the let's say the start. It's basically it has to do with the interaction or the role play with the group. When they talk to the person, if they want to bully them, or if they want to help them, or if they just want to be like these sadistic people that just go and they just kill people because they have no morals.
Oh, we did that once, right? With a bunch of children.
No, we let the kids go.
We'll take a step back on this. I mean, this is not. You can make it into a hack and slash type of game, or you can maybe get diplomacy in it. It all depends on how you want to run.
I mean,
the
it's
game.
just like any if someone plays like an RPG video game, it's kind of like how you want to play it, kind of.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But a little more free.
A lot of the modules or adventures, I should say. A really good famous one is the Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah, that's the one from the movie, right?
Ready Player One.
I don't know if the Tomb of Horrors is based off of.
Well, in the book, in Ender's Ready Player One, it's part of the start of the story.
Right.
The first
okay.
the first key is
Tomb
hidden.
of Horrors.
Okay.
I forgot that was heavily D&D related.
Yeah.
See,
Is
that's
that where they went to play Joust?
Yes.
Yes.
In the Tomb of Horrors.
In the Tomb of Horrors.
I have 14th place in the barcade. Joust, by the way. All time.
Not anymore, I'm sure.
Great. We'll get that unplugged
All right,
right away.
so let's get back to like when you encounter someone.
So well, like I was saying with the adventures, like the Tomb of Horrors, it specifically tells you in the first page that this is not a heavy combat adventure. Mm-hmm. So you as the DM is like you got to pick and choose, your group, and it's like if they're into like combat and killing monsters and getting treasure and becoming heroes, it's like they're not gonna like this adventure. So as the DM, you gotta do the pros and cons. Is like, do I really want to have encourage them to go down this path to follow this particular adventure, or do I just want to completely ignore it because it has a lot of puzzles, it's a lot of thinking, a lot of traps and stuff,
which can be fun in its own way too.
Absolutely. It can. I mean, it does have significant monster at the end.
Mm-hmm. The Lich.
But yep.
Also know that from the game.
It's really all at the dungeon master's control on what he wants to do with it. I like to use a little bit of the adventure with my own creative juices to it. Mm-hmm. They have all the books. Some of them are linked together for a bigger story, like the Giants. There was 3 specific adventures that had to do with different faction of giants. You can either play them individually, or you can play them all together so that the party finishes the entire story. Or you can have them started and then you kind of like, it's like, all right, it's like too many giants and it's like they're starting to get bored. It's like, so let's throw them in a little direction and then we'll take them back through here and stuff. And basically when the DM does that, it's like he's running his campaign, and the campaign is basically the larger picture of the world.
Okay.
So it's not just the adventure that you're doing. You're part of a larger world where I'm going to take you on a story.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start you...
So a little bit choose your own adventure type thing.
Exactly.
Great books.
But I give you guys the choices, and even if you don't want to go, even if you're going in a direction that I don't want you to, it's like I still have the options. So if you're going, for example, fork in the road and you guys go to the left, but I really want you guys to go to the right, but you still go to the left, it's like, I'll let you go to the left. But as you're going to the left and you're going, doing whatever is down there, I'm really actually bringing you to the right.
Okay.
So, and the sweetness of it is to give you the choices and to sort of like, there may be one thing that I introduce to you that has absolutely nothing to do with what you're currently doing and nothing to do with what I want you to do. But if you decide to go in that direction, from there, I can have you do another turn somewhere else. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, we're walking down the street, we're helping this little boy, and then the witch kidnapped his sister, and then everything just kind of like goes like all everything just kind of like all goes crazy, and but then again, you have to remember what you guys were looking to do,
right?
Because you can get lost completely in the story, and if you do get lost, then it just gets boring,
right?
Because you lose your focus. The players should, discussion is very important.
Yeah.
But also, as a dungeon master, you need to make sure that you're reading your players, and if they're starting to get confused or lost, you can help them a little bit.
So I'll just interject there real quickly. So, kind of the way we play this as a kind of a noob is so we've graduated from like that big graph paper where we had like it was a washable map to now we're using the tiles. So basically, what he's saying is about the team having to talk to each other. You literally have to discuss every move you make in the game, because like as you're going through a corridor, like you want to have like strategy is all about this. You want to have like your ranger, your thief, or what is your character referred to as, JJ?
The name of my character?
Yeah, no, the type of character.
It's a thief. It's a thief. It's a thief. Yeah.
So they're proficient. Like everyone has their own proficient skills. So you want them to kind of like lead the way a little bit, because they're going to check for traps along the way.
Right.
Before you go to a door. You want to check for trap. Like and if you ever sit down and play, it's like we're going to go through here as we're doing it. JJ's character is going to check for traps, and then flanking him. You want to make sure your warriors, your heavy hitters, guys who can take damage and take hits, are kind of following behind them. You usually want like your magical people kind of like further behind, your people who use long range weapons further behind. I have one of my characters is a dwarf, and I keep him kind of closer to the front because he has sight beyond sight, or whatever we call it, dark vision, which it allows him to see another 60 yards further in dark corridors than some of the other characters. So we it's all about what the abilities of your characters are and making sure you're using them properly, because if you don't like strategize every move you make throughout like this quote unquote map that you're moving towards, you can die,
right?
Basically. And it's just like any other game that you would play.
And to go off of that too is you're playing your character how the character should be played. So me being a thief, I'm not lawful and I'm not unlawful. I'm kind of neutral. I'm in between being a good guy and a bad guy. So
you look out for
myself. Me being a thief, I may want to do something and not tell the rest of the group. Maybe
he did.
He did do that.
Maybe there's a hidden chest somewhere.
I
and
remember
like,
that.
hey, I'm not going to let the group know, and that's when I pass notes or make some kind of gesture to the DM, like off to the side, that this is what I'm planning on doing, and not letting the rest of the party group know. And that's what's great about this game. You even though you're with a group of people, you're still going to play the character to, I'm not going to say his abilities, but the way it should, that type of character
you play the character how you want to play it.
Right. I think that's one thing, like aside from like the times you've done that, because we're on like such a slash and hash mission, we've gotten a little bit away from like playing the personalities of the character.
Right. There's the word personalities of the character.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that I think as we get more involved with it, I think we need to kind of keep that in mind, and I think it'll make it more fun.
Yeah.
And they do have that.
Yeah.
Now with the newer editions, before in the older books, the characters were really defined.
It's hard when you
what
get
they
older
did.
too. Like I can see if I was like a kid or like a teenager, like really getting into like
Everybody wanted to be a thief.
and
everybody
the
wanted to be
personality
the
of like a
wizard.
dwarf. But now, there's a 35-year-old guy sitting around with other,
Yeah.
20, 30, 40-year-old men, and just be like, well, my dwarf is going to charge through and smash down. I was like, yeah, it's weird. But it's fun.
It's fun.
I mean, back when Jim and I played in high school, it was like the thief character was very defined. He was really the only one who had like the
Defined skill sets.
superior like searching skills. or like the
Right.
investigation and stuff. He was really the only one who had the efficiency to like disarm traps and
Right.
stuff like that.
Well, now with the
But with the
magic
new ones-
users, that's important too because you want to check for like enchantments and stuff like that.
But the newer books now, especially the 5th edition, is like you don't need a dedicated thief anymore.
Right, if you have high enough efficiencies in what is it?
Yeah,
Dexterity.
I mean, for instance, is like Jim is playing a thief right now. Is like he doesn't have to stay a thief, and it's like he can go. It's like what? It's like I want to
Become
be
like
a
an
fighter
assassin,
too. So
right?
he'll multi-class into a fighter, but he'll still keep his thieving skills because he still has. He was still instructed in that school.
So
Whereas some other people like your dwarf, for instance, is like he may have just as good or better of an investigation type skill.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't know how to disarm the trap.
Right, so he can tell that someone's there, but he would have to say, "Hey, I saw this thing, but I don't know how to disarm it. You have to come over and do it."
Exactly.
So that's something that I think we've kind of gotten there a little bit since I brought up dexterity. So what are the different like attributes? I know strength is one, dexterity is one.
Strength is dexterity, constitution, which is basically your health, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma.
Okay, and then
So what does that all mean?
right. So obviously, when you have a warrior, a fighter, you want to have higher strength, right?
Yes. Just going with the base classes of fighter, you definitely want a high strength
We
and
still
a high
didn't get to this
constitution.
actual role question that I had, but after we're done with this, let's go back to that so people can understand like when you finally get that interaction, like what it means when you roll with each other.
We're not going to go into the subclasses
Yeah.
because we'll be here all night with
Yeah.
that. But for the fighters, it's strength and constitution. For thieves, it's dexterity and constitution.
Okay.
For the spellcasters, I'm specifically talking the wizard, it's intelligence.
Yeah.
And pretty much all of them, you want a high constitution because
'cause
constitution
it's
is going
life,
to
yeah.
make you hardy and, you'll live longer. Clerics, wisdom, constitution, and
That's about right.
those are the 4.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are the big.
Those are the
main
4.
ones, yeah.
Now, if you go into some of the subclasses, let's say for instance,
Just do one.
Just do one. Yeah.
okay, paladin.
Yeah.
Paladin, you need charisma and constitution would be your 2 important ones. Because if you think of a paladin, a knight of good and stuff like that, he's got to be able to take control of like
Right.
the situation and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Which plays into the personality trait.
Yes, paladins also have some clerical spells, so I would say probably wisdom
light
is a
magic user.
secondary important one, and then depending on how you want to play your paladin, you would think of either putting more points into the strength or the
Right.
dexterity.
And then completely new player creating a new character. When you set these up, so these aren't like predetermined attributes each one gets. So when you let's say
Depends.
for a warrior, or a fighter, to
It
get
all
your
depends.
strength number, you're rolling for a strength number.
Yeah,
right?
you have a choice. You can do it based on a point system or on a roll system.
Okay, and when we've played, we've done it on roll.
On
right?
roll.
You
So
don't on a roll system.
With using a 1d20.
Right.
So
No, 6.
6. Oh, right. And then you add them up.
3d6. And the rules kind of vary, but you roll the 6-sided die 3 times, and then you do that total of 6 times until you get 6 scores,
Right.
and then you put that through into your attributes.
Didn't we always do it 4d6 and then just drop the lowest one?
Yeah, there's a variation. You could do.
It doesn't really matter. You can do
You
whatever.
can do 3d6 7 times and then get rid of the lowest score.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so and basically character creation is like the best the best time.
I
'cause
remember
you can
when
really,
we first played. I mean, I think that was about an hour.
That takes the longest, it feels like.
takes,
It
like, a
does,
long
but it can
time,
also
so,
be the
yeah.
most fun too,
Yeah.
because you really, you could really pick, because there's so much stuff now.
Right.
Personality traits, physical traits, background information and stuff like that, and it's like it can really, if you really want to get
High
into
school,
it,
college diplomas.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
enhances your character.
yeah, it does. It's really fun.
So let's take it back. You want to take it back to where you were at?
So let's say you have a character. Let's say for simplicity, a fighter. He comes across like a small goblin. So we know that when we come into a room, there's a situation where both characters notice each other.
Yes.
In that situation, you roll, and you roll for initiative. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
And what does that mean? You roll to see who takes the first step in reacting, basically?
Yes. Basically, the DM can decide. First off, in the particular situation, is like if I want you in combat or not.
Yeah.
So I can either, like you said, the fighter walks into a room and there's a goblin. I was like, okay. I was like, okay, it's 1-on-1. So there'll be combat. So now, me as the DM, I have already got my plan set. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I will just lay the ground rules. You walk in, you open the door, you see a goblin sitting on the floor. Looks like he was about to eat dinner. Mm-hmm. Okay, now me as the DM, I know that Goblin's going to be pissed off because he's about to eat dinner. He's going to attack you right away.
Okay.
But I'm not going to tell you that.
Right.
So now you as the fighter, you got to decide. It's like, am I just going to close the door? Am I going to talk to him? Or am I just going to draw my sword and am I going to attack him?
Right.
So then you tell me that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to attack him. So then at that point, like I said, since I already know that the goblin is going to attack you, then we roll for initiative. And basically that is the roll on who moves first.
And then that's a 20-sided die, right?
That's the 20-sided die.
Okay.
Yes. And then once that's done, then the actual sequence of combat begins.
Okay. And like with certain characters, so let's say you have a goblin, I'm a fighter, we're both like, let's say level 1. I have to roll a certain amount on my 20-sided die to actually make a hit on you, right?
Yes.
So let's say for your
would be you need to roll to hit his armor class.
Yeah. And then let's say so his armor class is 6. If I don't roll a 6 or higher, so what if it's the 6? Is it a hit? If it's equal to the armor class?
It's a hit. Yeah.
Okay, so 6 or
equal
higher,
or higher
of the 20-sided die in order to initiate a hit, right?
In order to make contact with your weapon.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's say I rolled an 8. And my weapon is, let's say it's a sword, so let's say it's a 1d6.
Short sword, 1d6,
Yeah.
sure.
So then I roll the 1d6, I get, let's say, a 5.
You
So
get a
now
5.
your goblin has taken 5 damage, right?
Correct.
So you know the damage on your character, but we don't.
That's correct.
Right. And you, for the most part, know the damage on our characters as well. The health points on our characters as well,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
So at that point, it would be your turn if the 5 didn't kill him. So let's say
Yes,
he's like
if the goblin is still
if he's
alive,
like an
then
11
it's-
health,
then it's the goblin's turn.
So then it's his turn to hit, and then we take the hit. If,
Keep
you know,
going until one flees
right.
or one's dead.
And then that would be the end of the situation. Much like kind of like I think. Has anyone played like you've played like those Pokemon games and like Final Fantasy? It's a similar situation, right? Where like one person gets to hit, the other person gets hit. I think a lot of
turn-based.
role playing games are
Turn-based.
Yeah, turn-based.
are like that, which is cool because I had played games like that before, and then I clearly it came from
It gives you time to think,
D&D,
too.
right?
Yeah.
And then you'd be able to search the room and him and everything like that. Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, it was it's evolved pretty much over the years.
Yeah, let's go back to this. And get
Right now we're on the 5th edition, but if we just take a step back when they split between
The basic.
advanced
D&D
and the-
Light and Advanced D&D. That was in 77. So then
How long was that successful for?
Okay, Bruce, damn.
Yeah, I'm getting over a cold. I'm
I'm
sorry.
kidding.
That was for a good number of years. When did they?
So what do they update?
abandon
Like every
that?
decade at some point?
No, it actually jumped around a little bit. So the game was introduced in 74. 77 they changed it to a light and a structured version. In 89 they came out with the second edition. So there you're looking from 74 to 89. It was basically one edition. And then in 2000 they came out with the third edition. So you got about a 10-year gap there. But they went in 2000 when they came out with the third edition. That's when they decided they're bringing back the advanced D&D and regular D&D back into one game. And that's when there is no more Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. In 2000 with the third edition, it was just Dungeons and Dragons, and that was the end of it.
Got it.
They stayed with one title. They also started using the D20 system, which basically allowed all actions between the characters to be resolved with a roll of a 20-sided die. Which simplified a lot of things. Because before then, you had so many different charts. Everything. Like saving throws, is like you had like all like these different little
Lot to keep
numbers
track
and
of,
stuff.
right?
It was a lot of charts before that. With the D20 system, it just simplified everything.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for the most part, like you can get through an entire game like just using the D20. Obviously, when you have to do an attack, you know,
Yeah.
you need to step up with whatever your weapons dice is. But I feel like for the most part, like a fighter can get through a game with 2 dice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
It's like,
much.
you know, 20 sided, and then whatever their weapon is.
Almost.
You know, I've noticed with with my wizard, hers is a lot more like different spells have different you know, power sets.
Yeah, so with the D20 system, it it really opened up opportunities for the industry. The D20 system was published by Wizards of the Coast under an open game license. So basically, anybody could use the D20 system and start writing adventures for Dungeons and Dragons,
That's cool.
which is what, you know, a lot of companies were doing. Basically allowed commercial and non-commercial publishers release, you know, modifications, supplements, little add-ons. They had a very popular Dragon magazine. They had
Remember that.
little adventures published in Dragon magazine, which is huge. I see it all the time on eBay. It's huge collectible getting these magazines because, you know, it was like such great content out there. So pretty much by early 2000s, pretty much the entire RPG industry was using the D20 system. By that time, you had like Pathfinder and you had like all these other ones.
Yeah, I heard of Pathfinder.
Yeah. Then it kind of got a little crazy around that time.
So a short time period here. I'm seeing from like 2000 to 2003 was like their boom.
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast changed. They had to make some changes around 2003.
They probably weren't making enough money.
Yeah, because there was a book.
And what is Wizard of the Coast for the most part? Are they the people who kind of run? Are they like the proprietors of the actual Dungeon and Dragon name at this point?
Yes.
Now, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Okay.
are. Yeah, it used to be TSR,
Okay.
and then Wizards of the Coast took that over. But yeah, Wizards of the Coast had to make some changes with the D20 licensing and stuff like that because there was a book entitled "The Book of Erotic Fantasy"
Oh boy.
by the Valar Projects for Dungeons and Dragons, and it was focused on a lot of sexual content. which apparently, it just said it's like, hey, this is going
Struck a
too
chord.
far. Yeah. So they had to step back, and they were like, it's like, no, this is, now we got to start putting
regulations kind of on this,
regulations and decency standards in it and stuff like that. So when they did that in 2003, they came out with version 3.5, which was the most popular one, and it kind of was a little bit of an uproar because they didn't give any forewarning to anybody.
It was just
Yeah,
done.
they just came out with it in Gen Con 36. They published edition 3.5. A lot of companies were stuck with these modules that they were publishing for the old rules. There were some new rules added to it, and there were just many books out there that were no longer compatible with the D&D game because of these new changes here.
Right.
There were a lot of publishers that just kind of like went bellied up because they had books that were still in production, and now all of a sudden all this money put towards these modules, and they pull the rug out under of them, and now we're like, what do we do now? So it kind of it kind of made everybody a little upset. So those publishers that didn't bankrupt, they abandoned the D20 system, and they started going in their own direction. And then let me see. Then in 2008, which me as a big D&D fan, I didn't even know that this edition actually came out.
2008.
2008, they came out with the D&D 4th edition, and there's a lot of people that I had spoke to. They had said that it's like one of the worst editions that they've ever done.
So what are they up to now? Is it the 5th? Is fifth the current?
5th is the current one,
Okay.
yeah, and it's much better.
Nice.
So, but they did some major overhaul of the games, the game system. It's like they got like trained and untrained skills, long and short rests. They extended the leveling from level 20 to level 30. And then in 2014, we have the current one, which is the 5th edition, which is very simplified, very easy to pick up. I mean, you guys picked it up in one night.
Yeah.
It's like I just had to, guide you a
I
little
hopped on
bit.
pretty easily, I think.
Yeah.
It's super easy to pick up, which is what I think why the popularity is kind of like surged within the last couple of years.
Oh, good.
Not to mention, like
Stranger
the TV show
Things and
Stranger
stuff like
Things,
that, yeah.
boosting it, and you have a lot of famous Hollywood people that are playing it.
Joe Mag.
Joe Mag, and
I mean, he posts stuff all the time. Vince Vaughn plays with him almost every time.
all the time.
now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
yeah, Will
It's,
Wheaton.
it's cool. Yeah,
you
Will
know.
Wheaton's another big guy.
Will Wheaton.
Not to mention Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
They
God, yeah.
played it. So
Yeah,
it's,
it was a lot
yeah.
of a lot of media.
We were playing it when it was cool.
yes.
Before they sold out.
Now it's right.
Yeah,
It
so,
actually wasn't cool when we were playing.
So I think we talked about a lot of this stuff here in 6. So I think let's jump into like D&D in the digital
So
world.
let me back up here because
sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
sorry.
No, it's all right. This is something I just thought of because we're I'm going to take it back to the different types of worlds. There are literally thousands of different types of worlds. I mean, this is not
Yes.
just you going on an adventure in a castle or a dungeon. One of the ones I used to play a lot on board when I was on board in the Navy on the ship. We used to play
Dark Sun.
Dark Sun. And this was, this Dark Sun was like Tatooine, where it was just all desert.
Mm-hmm.
The characters were a lot different. They weren't just humans and orcs. They had these lizard types of people.
the
the
Tri-Creen,
right?
the praying mantis people.
Right. Them, and then it even evolved into space. I think at one point, didn't they?
There is Spelljammer.
Spelljammer.
Yep.
Right.
And these are all official D&D.
These are all D&D.
All official
modules?
D&D.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So,
But you couldn't play so our current company couldn't go and play like one of those Star Jammers?
Why not?
Or they could.
Absolutely.
It would take a little modification because
Okay.
Spelljammer, I believe, is second edition,
It is second edition.
as is Dark Sun. But
So you'd have to change up like the weapon class and the armor probably.
It's a
bit,
little.
right?
So what I liked about I'm just gonna talk about Dark Sun. We actually played a little bit of Dark Sun because there was no like in that campaign there was no metal back then. It was everything was bone. So
Yeah.
TC
Yeah,
and
the
I
first
played.
one, that wasn't fun.
It was not fun. We got our butts handed to
Yeah.
us. So
Somehow we got through it. I ran away and I left you there. That's how
I died. I was dead.
Yes.
But yeah, it all depends. So yeah, things have to change because certain worlds like Dark Sun, there's no metal. There's no everything's got to be.
well, there is metal.
it's expensive. It's hard to get.
Super rare.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll back that up. I haven't played enough Spelljammer. I think we touched upon it.
Yeah, Spelljammer has a lot of interplanetary, planelier.
That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it has to do with like space travel and ships and going to different planes of existence and stuff like that. I mean, you still have goblins and other stuff like that, but if you ever pick up a supplement where it kind of gives you like information on the world of D&D as like the basically the universe is infinite. It's like you can do anything. It's like the world of fire,
we'll get
plane
into
of
that
fire and
another
stuff
time.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so and you could either travel to these different planes by spells, or there were ships that bring you there, and they had the adventures to coincide with them.
Cool.
So let's jump into D&D in the digital world.
This is cool.
I think I don't know how much more we have here, but we probably should stop on on this point. Maybe we'll do a part 2.
This is it, I think.
D&D in the digital world.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So let's go.
we could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole lot in the digital world. They have. Let's just go through here. If you're not into the pen and paper type stuff, there is
Which I do like doing both. So we have what is it called? D&D Beyond.
D&D Beyond.
Can you actually play on there though?
No.
No, right? It's
No.
just for
You
character stuff?
can't, but you can have everything stored digitally, so you don't need pen and paper.
Yeah.
All you need is basically a
An
tablet
iPad.
and dice,
I
which
do
is
both
which
for
is great.
backup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I still like the feel of the paper and the pencil.
and but if you're
Because you're old.
if you're those hardcore
Yes.
people that enjoy like the older editions, like the 3.5 editions and stuff like that, you can't use D&D Beyond because they only use the 5th edition rules.
Got it.
Gotcha.
But there is another one called Roll20, which is basically a virtual D&D tabletop. It's web-based, and you can do it completely digital, or you can just do it, part digital and part pen and paper. And basically, you can play right off of the computer screen. In fact, it's like we can all be sitting in our own offices and be playing D&D through Roll20.
I got to find out if it's blocked or not.
It's I haven't really divulged a little bit too much into it. Jim and I have seen some really awesome gaming tables where they had like a nice 42-inch flat screen TV
Like
in
as a
there and
table?
stuff. As a
so
table,
cool.
Yeah.
and the maps are all on the screen. That's using Roll20, or
That's nuts.
there's another virtual tabletop
And pretty much
stuff like
every
that.
map's available in that format, right?
You can download it. There's
You could create your own.
Yeah, there's some create your own. There's tons of open source maps and stuff like that, classic maps, and just those that are making their own. So it's
Cool.
yeah, it's come a really long
I
way.
mean, we've moved to the tiles and stuff like
I
that,
like the
but I mean,
tiles.
if you see what Joe Magnell
I gotta
does,
see
you
it. I haven't
see
seen it, no.
you
It's
got to check out
crazy.
his
Yeah.
he has this his table set is just I don't even want to know how much it's how much money was spent on that, but it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Are we still going to talk?
I think we did good.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot. I think there's
Yeah.
definitely a part 2. If you guys have
We
questions,
should do more about like the actual game. Like,
yeah,
playing-wise
I
next
think we
time.
eventually want to
I wanna
maybe
record a
live
ga-
stream
live
a game.
stream a
Yeah.
game.
I think that would be cool, so people could actually see. Once you get into it, this was kind of more the history of it. We touched a little bit upon like playing. I think maybe we'll do a deep dive as a part 2 one day into like playing and like what that's about.
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Along with maybe the video.
Absolutely.
But that was cool, yeah. But if you guys have any questions, hit us up. If the D&D doesn't see it, we will ask him.
There you go.
DM.
We'll DM the
if
DM.
we don't know the question, yeah.
Cool.
But
Yeah,
very cool.
absolutely.
Oh, nice, DM. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was cool.
Thank you.
You know,
That was
gotta
I hope-
it was illuminating.
I hope it made sense to listeners.
It's
Yeah.
hard to tell because like I have a little bit of knowledge base. I mean,
It's
we
hard
all
to tell
do.
when you know about something already, like
Yeah.
how people who have no idea.
And
about
that's
it
what I
is
was
gonna-
trying to do as we were talking about it.
Yeah.
Like trying to think about like, well, if I don't understand anything about this, like how am I interpreting that?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
again, I think this might be the episode where we would expect the most questions. So if you have them,
I hope so.
just let us know.
Even if it's just one.
Yeah,
Give us
yeah,
one.
Just one. Yeah. Yeah, we'll take anything.
Yeah, but the thing is too is like is like you play your character and it's like you think you know pretty much everything, but there's always something, that you might find something new, and it's like, oh wow, it's like
Yeah,
it's like
there's a lot
could
of
really be
information
doing
out
that.
there on
Yeah.
them, which
Yeah.
is cool.
Cool.
Do you guys want to go into like anything you were watching, reading? Maybe I know we touched
Sure.
upon.
Yeah.
I want to hear your Attack of the Clones thoughts.
All right, so I guess I'll go.
You go first.
So, you guys have heard my thoughts on Hayden Christensen.
Well, wait. First, you watch Phantom Menace.
So
too,
I
right?
watched Phantom Menace, the first one. I don't think it's that bad. I'm not overly bothered by Jar Jar Binks. Granted, I'm not saying he's not annoying. He's very annoying. I think Jake Lloyd is he's okay for like
a kid. He's a
8 to
9-year-old.
10-year-old. Like I don't I'm not bothered by his poor performance. Padme was just okay. I think Obi-Wan was good. Surprisingly, I don't think Liam Neeson was great.
He's very stoic.
Yeah, he doesn't give you a lot.
Everything in that movie is
Yeah.
just very like.
I mean,
monotone.
Darth Maul is absolutely fantastic though. You don't get a lot of him, but I think for the most
Biggest
part,
mistake
it's
they
just it was an okay movie. Attack of the Clones, I've stopped 3 different times. It's just
Is there anything you like?
I think we're both in agreement about this. Jango Fett, the clone stuff, that's kind of cool.
Kamino and all that.
Yeah, Kamino. But Hayden Christensen is not only as bad as I remember or thought he was, but he's actually worse. I didn't remember him being as bad as
Wow.
he really is. And like I'm watching like every scene, and I text you guys. I said
Yeah.
I'm in physical pain
Why
watching
are
him
you,
act.
why are you torturing yourself?
Because I want to go through the whole thing. So when we do May the 4th again, I actually want to go and do a ranking system for all the 9 films. I don't want to include the other ones because it's too much. Then.
Yeah.
The 9 films I want to do like a specific ranking system,
We did that already.
but not the way I have.
He's
in
got a-
mind.
he's got a new idea.
I have a.
Oh,
And we've added movies since the
Yeah.
last time we've done this. We've added
Yeah,
movies, so this is a good opportunity.
It's going to be like each movie's going to be graded on a particular scale. Like you listen to last episode,
yeah. I was sick, so I haven't listened
but
to anything.
it's I've had to stop it 3 different times, and him and her together are just really.
It's also worse than I remembered when I watched it.
Yeah,
this
and
time.
it was like I remember not liking. I'm expecting that I'm gonna like Yoda at the end. Like that scene was cool. I remember losing my mind. I think that's the problem when that movie ended. You ended on such a high because you got to see Yoda actually fight and
So
do something with him.
you like that, seeing Yoda fight?
What-
Because there was a
initially-
whole bunch of people who thought Yoda should never even hold a lightsaber.
Oh no! When I first saw it, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I thought it was incredible. And in the beginning, it's funny because they make a reference to that. It's like, oh, is like you've never beaten Master Yoda with a lightsaber. It's like, oh, I think I'm as efficient. He goes, yeah, in your dreams. And I was like, whatever that means. But yeah, it was.
Well, I
it
can't
was
wait for you to
so bad.
finish.
Yeah,
I'm curious what you think of 3,
We'll see.
because 3 remains one of my
But
favorites.
yeah, that's for the most part what I was watching. I've been reading a little bit more. Nice. Nothing.
JJ and I have been watching Clone Wars, right?
Yep, I'm still on season 1.
I'm a little bit
actually-
into season 2 now.
I'm actually I'm at the I'm newly into it, so I'm at the episode where Hut's nephew was taken. So
The little guy.
the little guy. I missed watching this. I love
So fun.
the Clone Wars
And it
cartoons.
gets
And the new
so
one's
much.
coming out soon. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Season 7, so I want to try to catch up
Me
before
too.
this cut.
When is that?
February.
Yeah.
February.
It's rough. But it gets like season 1 and 2 are good, but it gets really, really good in like season 3, 4, and 5.
It's one of those sleepers. Like, I forgot how good it
Yeah,
was.
it's for a cartoon. It's very enjoyable.
It was great. So yeah, I've been watching that. I want to get this done as quick as possible so I can be ready for season 7 when that bounces.
Me too. I'm trying.
I don't know. Am I watching anything else?
Is it Jabba the Hutt's nephew?
It's
Yes.
Jabba the Hutt's
Jabba the
nephew.
Hutt.
Yes.
Yeah.
How old's Jabba?
God, I don't know.
Before he dies.
He's old.
Pretty old.
Yeah.
Pretty old.
I don't know. Anything else?
I finished those Darth Bane books, all 3.
Oh,
freaking
and that's
awesome.
the other thing. I'm reading the Darth. What's the first one called?
Path of Destruction.
I'm reading that. I'm 200 pages
Nice.
in. It's
I
a
blew-
500 and something page book.
I blew through one a week.
Yeah,
It's
really
freaking
good.
freaking
It's
awesome.
really good.
It takes place. It takes place 1,000 years before the movies. Mm-hmm. Basically,
1,000?
1,000. So at this time, there's not just 2 Sith. There's like a whole army of Sith, right? They're called the Brotherhood of Darkness.
Yep.
So there's a couple leaders. Then there's a whole bunch of like Sith lords underneath them, and Bane becomes one of them. But he quickly discovers like a lot of like flaws within. And
Yeah,
and he
careful, because I'm not there yet.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I could spoil. I'm at the point where
Alright, you talk then.
I'm at the point where he killed the one guy in the training. So that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Any further than that, I don't want to know. But this is a cool story where this guy basically, works in a mine on a planet, and life is all good, and he's force sensitive.
He doesn't know it.
He
though.
doesn't know it, but he knows something's different.
Yeah.
And then he ends up killing a Republic officer and has to get off world.
Yeah.
And
After like a card game.
So wait, these guys are just dark? They're not in tune with the Force?
Which guys?
So you're saying this whole group of like Sith people aren't in
No,
tune
they are in tune with the
Oh,
Force.
okay.
So it's similar to Jedi.
So then why was he surprised that he's Force sensitive?
So this was he's talking about before he like met
before
up with
he,
the Sith.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
and he's supposed to be some savior
The
for
Sithari.
this. Yeah, so it's a great book. I
He's
mean,
going to bring balance to the Sith?
let's hope so. But yeah, I like it. It's
Yeah.
I wasn't.
I'm excited for you to read it.
I'm gonna get it done very, very soon because it's been a long time since.
Years from now.
No, not gonna be 2 years from now. I've been reading this thing. It's
Yeah.
been pretty good. It's
And this is a novel, right?
it's a novel.
Novels. Yeah, I've been crushing the books. I'm in the middle of the Kenobi book right now.
It's tough to put down.
Yeah.
And I bought the digital version for $6.99.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Nice.
It's great.
I went to the library.
Yeah, I can't physically hold the book anymore. I'm just gonna. It's got to be digital.
Yeah, that's about it for me. No comics. I should start reading some comics again.
I'm trying to read. I want to read something new.
Yeah. Do you want to read superhero stuff or like independence?
I don't know yet. I've been dying to try something new.
Check out Why the Last Man.
Why the Last Man? Okay.
Why?
Trust me.
Why?
The Last Man.
Why?
What about you, DM? You been reading or watching anything of any significance?
Well, I just finished reading Painkiller Jane.
Good tie-in.
From Jimmy and Amanda's
Kickstarter?
Kickstarter that just finished a couple of months ago. I thought it was really good. So, I gave you guys all a copy because,
I'm gonna dig into that actually.
yeah.
You
I'm
don't,
about
you
to,
don't have the digital version? I was just kidding.
No, I prefer hardcover. Yeah, I'm trying to finish up The Witcher. I was sick all last week, so I only got 2 more episodes to go. Love it. I mean, I didn't realize how well Henry Cavill could be, in another action role besides like Superman. So I was pleasantly surprised. I know you're a big Witcher fan, especially with the video game. So I didn't really know too much of it except from what you told me and encouraged me
And
to
the
play.
game
which I never
exploded
did.
again. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody
People
went out and
downloaded
bought
it.
the game again. Downloaded
Yeah.
it.
So
Nice.
yeah, but that's basically it.
I'm also playing Knights of the Old Republic. Did you play that?
The game that we just got.
No, it came out in like 2002. I haven't played it. I haven't played it since I was a kid.
one.
Yeah.
Was it a
Oh, my
computer game?
goodness.
I have it on.
It was, yeah.
I have it on the MacBook right here because I bought the app.
Yeah. I played it when I was a kid, but I'm going through it
I
now because I
remember
want like
playing
a
that.
story.
So
What?
When did that come
Like
out?
2002, 2003.
I think I tried playing that and I couldn't get into it.
So I got mine the last week. I'm not sure, Matt. Did you get yours? But did you order that?
Which one? No, I didn't get the Bounty Hunter one.
Oh.
I got the NES ones.
Okay, so I got. I don't. You told me about this, but I didn't. If
Oh,
I
you know, it's Star Wars Bounty Hunter. The game.
The Django Fett one?
Yeah.
Great game.
Yeah.
I played it for PlayStation 2.
So
It's a
I have.
PS4 re-release.
I have it for
you got.
the
I don't need to play
PlayStation
the game.
4 right now. But yeah, it was what's
It's
it
a great
called?
game.
Limited. What was the name of
Star
the
Wars
company?
Bounty Hunter. Limited run games.
Limited run.
So what they do
games.
is they do like limited releases of old games on physical. And yeah, they do special packaging and stuff. Which it's really cool.
Yeah, so I got mine last week. I
Yeah.
didn't realize it was PlayStation 4 until I talked to you like a couple days ago, and I
Yeah.
went back and looked at the email. I'm like, oh, I can play this right
Yeah.
now.
You should check it out. It's
I
fun.
actually didn't know what I ordered, to be honest with you, when I
Amazing.
bought it, and it was
Sounds-
over a year
sounds
ago.
about right.
Yeah,
It's fun.
so I have a
That's
copy
funny.
of this.
It's a hard game, actually.
Yeah, well, I'll see what
It's
it
even
is.
harder if you play it on hard.
Did you beat Jedi Fallen Order?
I have not.
I haven't picked it up yet. I need to.
I
didn't buy it yet.
probably invested 3 hours into it so far.
I hear it's really good.
I just my
They
little
said it
ones-
was front runner for Game of the Year, right?
yeah,
I'm gonna wait for the Game
I'll
of the
get
Year
there.
edition for $20.
cool.
That everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
All
better.
right. So some of us have already finished it, but you guys will be checking in live with us. I think on the 22nd.
Is that
Will
next week?
be next Wednesday. We're going to be doing Civil War, just the main stories, 1 through 7, for our next live book club.
He means all 200 tie-ins.
No, I do not.
No.
Don't read those. If you read those, don't talk to us about them. Yeah, so it'll be Wednesday the 22nd, 8 o'clock,
Sure,
8:30,
sure.
8:30-ish.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're pumped for that. We are. I don't know what you guys are up to this weekend, but I think on the 18th we're going to be checking out. Well, that would already be last weekend because this is going to be
Yeah.
releasing on Monday.
So we're gonna check out the Mid Island.
Yes, we're going to be
Comic-Con.
checking Mid Island
Yep.
Con on
First one.
Saturday. So we'll see what that's about. Maybe
Yeah.
if it's a show that appeals to us, maybe you'll see us.
It looks pretty cool with some of these vendors I've never even heard of.
It's all be new
Yeah.
guys.
I think it's people like us trying to get into
Yeah,
it.
it's good to see like what these shows are about. So
yeah.
we'll see.
Cool.
What about you guys?
That's
Anything else
nope, we're-
interesting of
No.
interest?
Nope.
That's it.
Oh, shout out to Stu Yellen. I hope I pronounced the last name correctly, but I commented on some pretty cool art that he did. We met him at the one show we did in Suffolk. I was like, oh, that's a really awesome Joker. He's like, cool, I'll send it to you. I was like, no. I was like, all right, cool. What do I owe you? He goes, no, I'll just send it to you. I was like, no, don't do that. He's like, just send me your address. I was like, all right, let me pay for shipping. He's
Does
like,
he know
"All
there's
right."
3 more of it? Three more?
Well, that's what happens when you only have one person running social media.
Oh, what a bump.
Okay.
All right, so thank you, Stu. and I guess on that note, we'll say, remember. Is that what we say?
Until next time.
Remember.
Why don't you try it again? Try it again.
Until next time, remember.
Don't feed the geeks!